If you can't stand on one foot, they found,
you had an 84% higher risk of dying
in 7 years. I know! That was my reaction. What the hell?
I turned 54 the other day. And so Joanne and I have been talking about things that we used to do when we were younger and how we do things differently now that we're in our 50s. Because I really love being in my 50s. I'm not even lying about that. I mean, other than the menopause and pains and aches and stuff. But that's the point. Everything else I really love. So
Yeah,
we're
check out
going to
that
go.
menopause thing.
Yeah, we're going to go through
Podcast.
a list of different things that Joanne and I have really noted that as we're going into our 50s, we're embracing this new side of us. And, tell us whether or not you have the same or if there's something we didn't cover and you do. I'd love to hear it. So, Joanne, you go first. What is the first thing you want to talk about?
First, like, share, subscribe.
Oh, yes, that too.
Help support the podcast.
Comment too.
And my first one, I only recently started doing for reasons. When I hiked down to the Grand Canyon, a nurse friend of mine mentioned it. She's in her 70s. She's a retired nurse. It's called yoga toes. And it's basically a spacing you put between your toes to space out your toes. And the reason you do this is as you get older, and I am thinking of mom's feet in particular, you've had your feet in a shoe for most of your life, that it starts to grow into, like, you get ingrown toenails, you get some funky, your feet need something healthier. Now, my friend did tell me that my toes had good spacing. But
you know why, Joanne? Because you lived in Florida for years and you had stuff like this.
Well, I still go barefoot here. I've had people go, "Why are you barefoot?" I go, "Why wouldn't I be?" And they say, "Well, glass." I go, "When did you last see glass here? We live in a neighborhood that doesn't have glass on the street." I also wear flip-flops still. But I will say my pinky toe probably could use some spacing. And I do it with that Omni-Lux mask. So I take a shower, do my facial routine, and then I put the Omni-Lux put the toes on, put the Omni, and then just lay there for 10 minutes, and that's it. But just so you know, there's no scientific proof to this. It just doesn't hurt.
I have to admit, my first thought was, I wonder if that improves conditions for, like, if you get arthritis or arthritic issues in your toes.
It supposedly helps with plantar fasciitis, which I often have problems with because I run, I hike, I played tennis. That's where I got it last time, is tennis. And then one time I wore the sneakers now don't come with arches. Now shoes always came with arches. Now you have to buy the arches.
So should I tell you mine?
Absolutely.
Admittedly, this was more in my 40s, but I have embraced it more fully in my 50s that I wasn't doing, say, in my 20s and 30s. I have an intensive skincare routine. Now, do I wish I did it in my 20s and 30s? Yes. So those of you that are in that age bracket, take it very seriously. But
my kids
now, I find
it's hard to afford it, though.
It can be. I definitely look at different things, and you start to learn what brands are actually pretty affordable, have the same benefits of some of the more expensive ones. They just don't have as many of the frills. So,
well, there's also something to be said about the ingredients, and I have found quite a few have endocrine blockers. And since I have Hashimoto's, which is a thyroid, which is very common in women, you got to be careful with that too. And then you're starting to get into the expensive range because of it.
Well, for me, I really enjoy wearing makeup. Not everybody does, but I do enjoy wearing makeup. And I could tell you right now, one of the biggest issues I had when I was younger was that I always felt like I had this weird layer on my face when I put makeup on. It never looked like it was my own skin. And part of that was because I was not hydrating well enough. So
Mm.
yeah, if you don't have a good canvas, I mean, if for any of you painters out there, if you ever get a canvas and you have to gesso a canvas, there's a reason you got to gesso the canvas. It's because you want a really great foundation to be able to, have your colors come up true and look great. So yeah, you want to really make sure that you are creating a good canvas, and also sunblock and SPF. And I take all that stuff really seriously, where before I never did. For those that are asking, I'll just throw it out there. I use BioEssence. That's one of the BioEssence. I think is the name of the company. They're a really great company. And I use some Korean K-beauty type stuff. I've used a lot from Ordinary. I really like that company as well. So different
I
stuff. I
use,
mix it up.
just if anyone's interested, Peach and Lily. Now I have a
Hmm.
filter, so you can't really see my face. I don't really wear makeup, but Peach and Lily, I very much like it. Seen changes.
But also, I think there is an understanding that, like, I'm not trying to look like I did when I was 30.
Okay, but
I'm not
do you
interested.
remember, I think makeup might have became more accessible to more people when we were young, because do you remember the blue eyeshadow and then the streak of red and like the eyeliner? I remember pulling it there and you put the
Oh,
eyeliner
they're
in
still
there
doing that
and
on the waterline. Yeah.
oh, I didn't know that.
Mm.
But my point is, they went crazy in the 80s, I think, 70s, 80s, with the crazy makeup. But then there was this push for natural looking.
Mhm.
And now we're more into the natural. So
Back
I
into the
get the
natural
whole,
again. But I was gonna say in 2016, it was like full beat, bake it in, like
mm,
high intensity, sculpt out that skin, but there was that
yeah.
whole meme that came out where they were saying, um, you know, that she never wanted men to see her doing makeup because then they'll find out that we are shapeshifters.
Or in that, I know it's a 1950s setting, but the marvelous
Mrs. Maisel.
and they have her laying in bed and the light hits her and then she has to get up, put all her makeup on and then lay back in the bed and say, I wake up like this always.
I know. God,
You know
horrible.
what? She did it in that first episode and never did it again.
Yeah.
I thought that was funny too. Because she slept with him even though she divorced him. But anyways, it was still
Anyways,
funny.
so that's my big, like, the one thing I can honestly, because back in my 20s and stuff, now part of it is because we really couldn't afford much, but I think it was also didn't have the knowledge, um, didn't really understand how much skin really makes a difference when your skin feels good and hydrated and just feels better. It makes a big difference. And so I was using like body lotion on my face. I get Dove
Oh,
body
yeah.
lotion, put it on my
I
face.
was like, body lotion? What?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I wasn't. I
Um,
wasn't too particular,
yeah.
but at least I was
Me,
doing that.
I also started using Cocoa Kind as a sunblock, which is very pricey, but for the face, because yeah, the endocrine blockers. But
Mm.
yeah, all right. The next one, which maybe people in my 50s, oh, probably not, because I just read it in AARP. It was this little clip hit. So I started this in my 40s just for funsies. You know, I often woke up in the middle of, not in the middle of the night, earlier than everyone. And so I would get dressed in the dark. And to put my socks on, I would try to do it without leaning up against the bed. And then I recently learned, maybe 3, 4 months ago, that they did a study in England of a huge amount of people, in the thousands. And a percentage of that, they do a balance test to see if you can stand on one foot.
Hmm.
If you can't stand on one foot, they found
You had an 84% higher risk of dying.
in 7 years. I know. That was my reaction. What the hell? Now, I've been practicing for the heck of it.
Joey's like, I won't.
But then, well, think of mom and dad.
How long are you supposed to stand on one foot?
10 seconds. But then I saw a thing with Dr. Adia, and he pushes the whole balance thing too. But he takes it a step further and try doing it with your eyes closed, which that's hard. I've done it finally. It took me a while to practice it. And I think you have to get in the right mindset. I can do it, but I was shocked.
You don't think they're just playing you because they think it's funny? People are walking around standing on one foot and they're like,
No, it's
they're
part
with
of
their eyes shut.
No, it's part of to see. Yeah, some doctors even use that as a way of determining if you're how's your health doing. Because most of those people who died, that 85%, a lot of them died because of falls. Again, think of Dad.
Right.
After he fell, it took him, what, 5, 6 years?
Yeah, but even the last month and a half of his life, he fell multiple times, and our brother-in-law had to go to the house and help mom get him
Right,
up. So
right.
yeah, no, it makes
My
sense.
point is, it's not necessarily just from heart failure, although I think our parents didn't have great health. That's another story.
They
But
live to be in their 80s, Joanne.
yeah, I know. I think they could have lived longer,
Yeah, they could have.
especially with the knowledge that we know now. I was shocked by that 85%. I was floored. So now we test the balance in this house.
Well, I was going to say number 3 for me is I find that I am less religious and more spiritual. Actually, I'm not religious and more spiritual. And I say that as a person that was active in church, and I even was a religion teacher at one point. So I was very active in that stuff. And what I have found as I've gotten older, it's not that, I mean, one can say a lot of different things about religion, but I think that what I realize as I've gotten older is that spirituality should be very much incorporated in religion, but I find it's not. And spirituality is a lot different than being religious. And I would much rather focus on being spiritual than religious. And yeah, you have something to say.
I don't know if you remember or if you were around at the time, but I used to say, I am of the religion of Joanne.
Oh, yeah. No, I quote that sometimes.
I did it as a joke, but I also understood I have a set of beliefs that it fits me and is good for me. And I think each individual should have that. There are, some common truths, but, spiritually speaking, it's hard to fit into I called it institutionalized religion. So I want to say I agree with you, but I don't. For me, it doesn't have to do with uh, what's the word of being 50. I've been that way for a while.
For me, when I think about a lot of people when they're getting older, uh, and I've heard this many times, a lot of people when they get older, suddenly they find God. I don't know if it's because they think they're closer to,
Death.
death or whatever. But if I was to give a piece of advice, I would lean more into that spirituality and lean more into what that means to you and what makes you feel good about your place in the world and how you want to treat other people and how you want people to treat you as opposed to and how that is connected to, a higher power. Than getting caught up in the bows and the kneeling and the,
The
genuflecting and all
ritual.
that other stuff. The ritual is not as important as the actual spirituality.
I'm gonna say one thing that did come up that I don't think I could comprehend as a 20-something-year-old,
Yeah.
and even 30, but in the 30s I was busy with kids, is that uh, understand. You always heard the question, "What's the purpose of life?" But I always thought, was more selfish in that question. But I recognize now on a larger scale, this whole life thing is such a strange and odd thing. Why does it exist? Why
Yeah.
does any of this exist? So anyway, that's getting a lot into spiritualism.
And to be
I'm gonna
clear,
close my door. I'm listening.
yeah, I'm not sitting here saying that people should abandon their religions. Whatever floats your boat. I guess I'm just trying to say is that as I get older, the more conscientious and more in touch with the spiritual aspect of my life and how I go about day to day is more incorporated into my life than it ever was when I was younger, simply because, um, yeah, but we're closer to what goes on after the beyond than I was in my 20s. But two, we've talked about this in other episodes, when you go through a death of a parent, in particular, or both your parents, there is a question about mortality and what happens and will you ever see them again? And it's more than, like I said, it is definitely for me become more about being connected with my spirituality than it was about connecting with a religion.
I did have an existential crisis in my 40s, which we discussed in a
Yeah.
different podcast as
Yeah.
well.
All right,
But
Joanne,
yeah.
your turn. We're on 4.
Okay.
Wait, no.
This is my third.
Yes, but it's a total 4.
Okay.
Or no.
Oh, total 4
No.
between the two of
1,
us. Yes.
2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
No, total 5. You're on 5.
Okay, I'm gonna group these two together,
Okay.
and it's gonna be quick. I curse and drink more. No joke. I'll say this: when I was younger, I couldn't stand alcohol. So when you say you're drinking, oh, you should be careful with that. I don't, compared to other people, it's still barely any. But I couldn't stand the taste. I had one of those. Uh, Genetically, I think I just was not predisposed to alcohol. It would burn.
Mm.
And so I was like, why do you drink this swill? But I've come to enjoy it. This morning, I even put some Baileys on my oatmeal. I had
That's
an
funny.
empty container. I had finished it off. I poured the milk in the bottle, swished it around, and then put it in my oatmeal. It's like, I want to use it up. But and then, of course, I curse a heck of a lot more now.
Yeah, and I can honestly say we were both raised in a household that never had cursing.
Oh, yeah.
And then when it came to drinking, I think dad might have at one point had like a beer with dinner here and there. And
Right.
then I think mom was like working for a alcohol rehabilitation center. She was a program
Right.
coordinator. So then she went to, Brad, you shouldn't be having alcohol anymore. And he was like, okay.
One drink means you're an alcoholic. It was like, oh my God. Which is funny because a couple of our family members still drink a lot.
And the funny thing is, but yet for some reason, if she ever heard that I was having a glass of wine, she'd be like, Danielle. Like as soon as I was divorced and she would find out, because I also did not drink in my
she
marriage.
did it even later?
Yeah, in my marriage, I
Wow.
never drank because my ex-husband's mother was an alcoholic and he
Right.
had a difficult time with it. And I didn't really care. I didn't really drink that much.
Yeah.
So if I had, after I got divorced, I had a glass of wine, mom's like, Danielle, really? Should you be doing that?
That's weird because James likes the mudslides at Disney. I remember that was a
Mom
thing.
did too.
Maybe she was afraid you'll be
She's like,
becoming a
"Ooh,
slush.
mudslides."
Do you
And
remember
forget
how
about
she
it
used
if
to
you
curse? And I don't give a fuck about anything anymore.
Yes, and White Russians. She was like the dude.
Oh, the White Russian. Yeah. I remember having a White Russian.
But I was going to say, just a singular note when it comes to alcohol. Like I didn't really drink alcohol until I was in my mid to late 40s into my 50s. But now it's like, I've learned I have to be careful because I swell, and that means my joints swell. Like
See, I don't drink
I
that
haven't,
much.
well, yeah, but even one glass can sometimes do it. But
See,
I
I don't
found
drink a
that it's only
glass.
certain alcohol. I haven't quite figured out which one it is. And,
Is it Bailey's? I'm sorry for you if it's Bailey's.
it's I have a feeling it has to do with higher quality alcohol is better, unfortunately.
Oh, I'm
The
gonna have to tell that
expensive
to
stuff.
Gordon.
Like and like, for instance, vodka that is, pressed multiple times and is usually from Europe, I do better with. Ones that are domestic and doesn't have, like, cheap, I tend to suddenly swell up.
Oh, by the way, last
Mm.
night, this is kind of on topic. I watched this movie for Women's History Month. That's not why. I just watched it because I wanted to. It was called Widow Clicquot. It's about this woman. Did you see it?
Nope.
It's about this
I went out to
woman.
dinner for my birthday.
Oh yeah, happy birthday! I forgot.
Mm.
Um, it's about this woman who was a widow. Her and her husband started this vineyard. He dies, and I think they she killed him, but that's another story. There's no record of that though. um, but because it's a true story. Anyway, she gets this vineyard going, and today she is the standard in Champagne.
Oh.
'Cause she grew in Champagne. The way they do, there's a special way they test the yeast called riddling, her riddling scale, and then there's something else. But it was a fascinating story. Of course, it was Hollywood told, so it was based on a book. But I recommend it.
And
The
I
end.
just wanna tell you that I had a key lime martini at a very expensive restaurant, and I'm pretty sure they used a high quality stuff, and I don't have swelling this morning.
That sounds delightful, key
Oh
lime
my gosh, Joanne, when you come visit,
martini.
you should, because it wasn't too sweet, it wasn't too alcoholic, it was somewhere in between, it was just so smooth, like smooth. I was
I
like,
like that. All right, we'll
"Oh!"
have to talk.
Yeah.
We'll
Anyways,
we'll take a quick video of it when I come
right.
down.
Okay, so I forgot what number we are, so we're gonna have to just deal.
Number
Um,
6.
I now alright, so I'm gonna be clear, not everybody is like me. But I am now more active in learning how to fix things or create things than I was in my 20s and 30s. In other words, I have allowed other people to take care of that. Like if the
Uh,
faucet broke or the toilet broke or I had to redo the floors, whatever. Um I mean, I'll be real, my ex-husband didn't do any of that stuff. We had to hire someone if we had
that's
to fix
common,
something. Um,
especially on Long Island.
yeah, so as a and you would think that maybe I would learn this when I was younger, not when I'm older, but I keep on thinking that as I'm getting older, if I have a really clear understanding of how to do these things, like change an electrical socket, whatever, I can do that regardless of what age I am. That's not a heavy lifting thing. And the truth is as we get older, our um, resources might not be as plentiful. We might not be able to hire someone. Who knows how much it's going to cost to have somebody come in like 20 years from now. So I would much rather be able to do that myself if I can. And yeah, so I've been trying to teach myself or go on YouTube University and learning how to do a lot of stuff that
I
I
like
didn't
that
know how to do
YouTuber.
before. So
So what I thought as you were saying this, what kept popping into my head is necessity is the mother of invention. Yeah, I can see that where
and for me, it's
we needed to learn.
preparation because I don't think in my 70s do I think I'm gonna go on YouTube University, go look up not unless I was comfortable with doing that to begin with. So it's better that I do it now and learn how to do it now, um, and feel like I have that in my tool belt. Uh,
I think, I mean, I've always been there, and Gordon is that way too. I think it's in my nature, so that one I've always done.
I was in a situation where I was believed that I was inept.
Well, I will say this, yeah,
And I
aside
was
from your
inept
husband
because I
being
didn't know
an
how to
asshole.
do it. Yeah, no. I was inept
See,
because I didn't know how to do it, and because I
I
believed it,
wish
I
we
didn't try
were
to
more
learn.
friends, Danielle, back then,
Mm.
because I would have been like, "What are you talking about?"
Oh,
But,
and to be clear, everybody, when the day I was getting married and I was in the limousine, Joanne was the only one that said, "All right, if no one else is going to say it, I will. Do you really? We can leave. We don't have to go to the church. We can end it right now." Joanne, with all her
you know what?
tact.
To be fair, though, I'm not one to like
That was
any of the
amazing. To this day, I think of it and I'm like, Joanne's a girl's girl. I didn't take
It's
the
true.
advice, but
I would even say I see these people who've been married a long time, and knock on wood, it'll stay this way. But I find looking at my friends who have gotten divorced, I think a lot of the issues is not just from him, is that you didn't. Now you had a crazy husband. I'm not going to go into it deeply, but you had a crazy husband, so it's a different
but I was
situation.
naive and I was definitely susceptible to all of his.
That's true, but you need to speak up and tell them your needs. Because what I've seen was with a couple of my friends is they didn't speak up and allowed him to keep taking more and more away from you until it came to a point you couldn't take it anymore. And then you went, that's it. He won't listen. And
Right.
it's like, you kind of gave it to him,
Yeah,
gave
but
that power over to him.
right.
But
But
anyway,
it's
that's
so insidious. You know what I'm saying? It's
yeah.
very insidious that you don't even realize sometimes that it's even happening
Yeah.
when it's
And I
happening.
think it's somewhat in the nature of women to do that. But I think I've seen
Mm.
enough talk shows where I saw that happen that I was like, I got to speak up for myself.
Mm.
And I did, and yada, yada, yada.
All right,
Not,
Joanne, your turn.
wait, got to get my glasses on. So I said the cursing and okay. Here's why we started this one. The multivitamin. I take multivitamins.
Mhm.
So here's the thing. I took them regularly for a long time. And then a couple of years ago, it came out that multivitamins didn't do anything. That's the soundbite. And I like to read studies. I like to read, when they do a research. That's it. I like reading research papers. I'm weird that way. Anyway, so I'm like, get me that research paper. So I read it and they got it wrong. What it said, what the research found is when you get a multivitamin, they put so much in, let's say it's C, D, and B. They put so much of that multivitamin in it, like 200% of what you need for the RDA. Your body can't absorb it all, which makes sense.
Which means you piss it
And
out.
yeah, it's still absorbing.
Right.
It just can't absorb it all. So the soundbite, and this is what drives me nuts about the media when it comes to research, they just want that one liner and everybody go, what?
Mm-hmm.
And this is trusted news as well as non-trusted. So you have to listen to the whole program or read the whole article or don't listen to a fucking soundbite. So Gordon and I used to argue about this because he stopped taking them. And then he's like, I'll take them every once in a while. This morning, I went on to AARP. Yes, I got a lot of my information from AARP. Great magazine. Highly recommend. But I went on to AARP and there was an article about multivitamins. There was 3 independent studies from 3 independent organizations that found that when you're older, because their magazine's about the retirees 50 and up, when you're older, you're less likely to decline in cognitive abilities if you're taking a multivitamin. They gave a placebo and a multivitamin, and they found that the people who were taking the multivitamin had better cognitive skills.
Okay.
So take
I
your
got
multivitamin.
I got my pen out, Joanne. What's the name of the multivitamin you take?
Oh, I take Centrum Minis, And
Oh,
I
okay.
started taking that because of that whole thing about your body can't absorb it all. So with the Centrum Minis, you're supposed to take 2 a day. So I'll take one in the morning. And then if I get to it, I'll take a second one in the afternoon. But this way, I feel my body at least has a chance to absorb all that is needy. And I get the one that's for 50 and plus,
I'm
women 50 and
sure
plus.
that this is not going to meet your sniff test,
Uh-oh.
but I take gummy multivitamins. I have a hard
I,
time with multivitamins.
yeah,
Now, mini, the fact that that was a mini makes
yes,
me go, okay, maybe I'll get it.
yeah,
I I have a problem swallowing pills that are large, like to the
yeah.
point where
The
I
minis are not
choke.
big.
I was trying to take one that a multi not it's not a multivitamin, but it was something for joints and whatnot, and it's like this big.
Oh, God.
It's huge, and I had to cut it up in 4 pieces, but then you're, like,
Oh,
rough.
wow.
Yeah, and it was actually rough. So, like, you're
Right.
swallowing and it's rough and it's scratching your neck, but in the same breath, at least it didn't get lodged in my throat. So, I
Yeah.
have a hard time. So, like, any time that I can get gummies, I'll get it. It is not because I'm like, "I want something sweet treat." No, because it's not doesn't taste that good. It's
I
just
have
it's
nothing
easier
wrong
for me to
with
swallow.
gummies.
Oh, really?
But when you were having your period, you kind of need the gummies for the iron, particularly women. But
Mhm,
we're in our 50s. I'm assuming you're. Yeah, you said you were in menopause. So,
mhm.
um, yeah, in your 50s, you don't. After menopause, you don't
Now it's
need.
mostly calcium.
But yeah, you got to focus on
Calcium,
the
vitamin
calcium,
C, and maybe some
calcium,
vitamin D.
magnesium, and zinc. Those are because you
Mm.
need the magnesium to absorb the calcium
I take a
and D.
separate magnesium.
Oh, good. Yeah,
Mm.
I had to take a second. I don't take the calcium every day. I'll take it every other day because I don't want a lot of my friends, older friends, has a osteoporosis or they're pre-osteoporosis. I forget what it's called. But yeah, multivitamins, take them, please, if you want to be. I've seen the decline in. I hang out with a lot of older women, so
Alright. Well, I have one more. I
I
think
have several
between
more.
well, I think you better start choosing one because 'cause we're getting to
Yes,
the
ma'am.
end. Okay.
Yeah. Oh,
So, the one that I have is, I am less conformist and more creative in the way that I dress and present myself. And part of that and Joanne and I were talking about this earlier today, is that part of it is, like, I like thrifting, and that is probably part of it because when you go thrifting, you feel a little more daring because, like, what's the worst that can happen? You spend a couple of dollars on something and it doesn't work, whereas,
yes, that's
spending
true.
a couple $100 on something and it doesn't work, that really sucks. So, but it allows you to be a little bit more creative and try something different. But I also feel like, I never felt comfortable conforming to what everybody else was doing, even though I would do it just so I could fit in. Because when you have little kids, you're trying to find a tribe that you kind of like fit in with. Because and that really is the crux of conformity. We just don't want to be rejected. We want to be accepted, right? So I have a funny story. I actually posted it on social media today. Oh,
This is probably gonna be backwards. That
what
was
does it
my
say?
Girl Scout leader, oh, no, that's not it. Let me find it. Nope, this one. My Girl Scout leader pin.
What does it say? Defy conformity. I love that, Joanne.
I was the only one who put defy conformity. Everyone else put their
Be
league
nice.
thing. It's like,
But
defy
I this
conformity.
that sounds very you. Um, I went to, Winter Park in the Orlando area during the holiday season, and they had all the decorations up. I think it was, like, the weekend before Christmas. Me and Bob went over there, and I'm wearing one of my outrageous outfits. I wear big hats and lots of color and, all this stuff. 'Cause why not have some fun with it, you know?
Well,
And
I'll tell you why I can't do it. I do not have an eye for that.
Well, I'll say this because what I
I
do
have an
enjoy.
eye for when somebody is lying to me,
Ooh.
but I don't have an eye for
I don't
putting
think I
myself
thought I
together.
have an eye, and sometimes I still wonder if I have an eye for it, but, like, I
You do.
experiment and I have fun with it.
I am impressed with what you come up with. I was like, "That
Well,
she put that together from a thrift store? How?" But
um,
okay.
Bob, what I love about him is that he will actually look at what I'm wearing, and he'll wear, like, a button-down shirt that coordinates with whatever I'm wearing, and
You're
sometimes
so
wear a cap.
geeky.
We're so
You
dorky,
freaking
it's
nerds.
amazing. We're such nerds. I love it. But, so we went to Winter Park, and we're walking through, and I'm going, "Everybody's wearing" like, "Bob, am I crazy or is everybody wearing beige?"
Ugh.
They were all wearing beige. It was
Mm.
sad beige for as far as the eye could see in the sea of Christmas decorations, and it
Uh,
was, like, weird. They all had a uniform, and I'm
uh,
like, just remember looking at 'em like, "So is this what conformity is? Oh my
uh.
god." I feel like we're like fish. I know I'm a little over the top sometimes, but, like, I shouldn't feel that over the top in everywhere that I go because people have personal style. They all look the same. And the funny thing is, I think a lot of them were out of staters, which made it even weirder.
Well, I worked in New York City for a time, and I
They all wear
remembered
black.
the raincoats, the black
Oh, the
raincoat,
raincoats.
or sometimes
Mm,
it was beige, but it was usually like a dark blue, black raincoat. No matter what the weather was, it was always a
mm.
raincoat. And I remember wearing something red just to mix things up, to shake things up. And I remember somebody saying something, "You're going to get noticed." I go, "That's the point."
Yeah. And the funny
Actually,
thing is,
Aunt Kathy kind of taught me that too. She was
mm,
like
oh, I
that.
could see it. I could see it.
Yeah.
She always had a great eye. Well,
Yeah.
I feel like at one point in my life, I would have been like them. I'd be wearing the 3/4 zip up hoodie, not hoodie, like beige, cute outfit. I'm sure there's a brand that they're all wearing with some mountain on there or something, and the whatever pants they were wearing, the same shoes that they were all wearing, and they all looked the same, and they had the same hats. Like it was weird, Joanne. But at one point or another, I think I would have been one of those people because I wanted to feel like I belonged so badly, and that is what I've learned is that's so external, and when you're getting into your 50s, like, it is really God, I wish I was more like this when I was younger. Um, that whole "I don't give a flying fig," I'm not gonna say the F word because 'cause I'm trying really hard not to curse, but, um, I you really don't. I mean, it's funny because 'cause I'll get little twinges every once in a while. I'm like, "Ooh, I might be sticking out right now. I might be a little over the top today." But, like I said, one of the great things about the person I'm with right now, he never makes me feel that way. Like,
Aw.
I've worn big, giant hats with, like, shit all over it. I had one on earlier today, and he'll be like, "Okay, let's go." Won't even comment on it. He might think it's crazy, but he won't comment, and he will proudly walk through the streets with
Or he
me.
doesn't notice
So
it.
much so that we sometimes get stopped, and they're like, "Oh my god, I have to tell you 2 are such a vibe." And I'm like, "Okay."
I will say this as someone who does not veer off when it comes, and my fear is more of I don't know how to put myself together. Um, but I will say when I see someone who is a bit nonconformist, it gives me delight.
Well, I was gonna say most of the time it makes people smile.
Yeah.
Like, I got into, like, a phase because I go through phases,
Yeah.
where, I loved when I would find at the thrift shop a ball gown skirt. Remember how they used to get them in 2 pieces? They had
Uh-huh.
the whole I think it was
Oh.
Jessica McClintock was the name
Oh,
brand
good.
back in the
I
day,
remember.
and
I
they
had
had
a
the big
Jessica McClintock.
taffeta with the
I
fluffy stuff
donated it.
underneath, the tulle underneath and the taffeta on
Yeah.
the outside or whatever it was, or satin, and I would find them, and I would wear a T-shirt and sneakers. And I would go to
Wow.
Walmart.
Now that's crazy.
It's so
I'm
much
not saying it
fun.
wouldn't give people the yes. Like I said, if I saw it, I'd be like, "Oh my god." It
I
would
wear a
give me
t-shirt.
such joy
I
to see it.
like,
It's like, I
especially
wish
if
I
it's
could
like
do
a
that.
Mickey Mouse t-shirt.
Yeah.
Like, and I sat there and I think to myself, I am literally wearing the clothing that I wish I had the courage to wear when I was younger. Like, and I think again, it gets to that second part of your life, or, whatever you want to call this part of your life. I don't want to waste it going, oh, I should have just went ahead and like, fuck it. If it, do- if it, if it, if
You
it
got
doesn't
a
work, it
first
doesn't
curse out
work.
of Danielle.
But in all honesty, I need to, and this is again goes back to that lesson. I need to live my life in a way that in the long run, when I reflect on it, I will remember what I took chances are. I'll remember what I did that was true to myself, because ultimately, if I was to do what I felt like everybody wanted me to do,
Mhm.
um, I'm not living. They don't live with the consequences of that. They don't live with the memories of that. I do. So I want to have that memory of that person that was laughing at like the ridiculousness of whatever I was wearing, or was sitting there going like, damn, I love that,
That's true.
Um,
Even if they're, well, making fun, I suppose they're getting joy out of it.
I don't think I've ever had anybody make fun of it to my face. Sorry, I got something caught in my throat. Um, I might have had somebody saying like, why did you choose that? Uh,
That cracks me up. But like, I love it.
and I said, because I'm
Oh, that's beautiful. That's a beautiful answer. And what did they say? You're a crazy
they're
lady.
like, they're like,
How many
actually, most of
cats
the
do you
time,
have?
but I again, 9 out of 10 times I'm usually with, my boyfriend, and he's usually just sitting there like, what? Look, let me pull her a little closer. Look at her. I mean, how much better can you get? Like to have,
I
a partner in
personally,
crime.
I was thinking about it as you were talking, and I was thinking, oh, I see what she's saying. To be free, be who you are, to
Right.
express yourself. I think in my case, it's just not how I want to express myself. Plus, even if it's good energy I'm getting, I still don't want that attention. But I'm a bit of a hermit, so
I'm a hermit too. I'm actually an introvert. And people don't believe me, but I am.
I believe you. I just don't think you're on the scale that I am.
Um, like it's very funny. I like to express myself. I also want to blend into the wall.
You also
If
like
that
to
means I have
talk
to
to
wear
people
something
who
that that's in the pattern of wallpaper. But no, it's not that
not many people have wallpaper, but
I
you'll reach out to
like
people that I would be like, "Yeah, too much work."
I actually explained it to Bob the other day because
I know what
I
an
wouldn't
introvert is, and I do
know
believe
the
you're an
way I
introvert.
feel. And I'm saying that like when I'm approaching someone that I've never met before, I can turn it on, right?
Yeah, me too.
But with that being said, in my head, I have a whole dialogue going on going, okay, what should you say? Are you going to sound like an idiot if you say that? Maybe I should say this. Oh, freak. What am I going to say? And I go through a whole entire thing. Now, 50%, maybe more than 50%, 75%
That's
of the time,
social anxiety,
I'm
I
able
think.
to say whatever I need to say, and, you never know. And then the other 25%, I might say something like, "My cat's breath smells like cat food." And d what do you do with that?
I'd be like, "Okay."
I'll say something stupid, and then
Yeah,
I'll be
I
like,
used to ruminate,
"Okay." Or you say something and they'll answer with
but
one
I
word
think
answer,
that's
and then you
social
go, "Where
anxiety.
do
I
I
don't
go
think
with now?"
that's Danielle, I don't think that's introvertism. I think that's social anxiety.
I don't know, 'cause I just wanna go in my room and hide
Yeah.
under a blanket.
Yeah, I
And
think that's social anxiety. I don't think that's introvert.
I would have to look that one up.
Yeah. It was actually Paige who pointed that out to me. I tend
Mm.
to ruminate. I used to ruminate. I less likely to because I've learned uh, it's that whole I have to remind myself that of course, but it's that whole you're allowing this incident to live rent free in your home
Mm.
and you could be working on something else. And, but I also find with age, you can let those things go because you don't give a shit as much as you used to.
Well, needless to say, I like dressing more creative than I used to, and when you come and visit, like, you'll have to put on some of my outfits. I've got ones for you. I've got ones that I think
I
are gonna be
don't know
great.
if we have the same, you always look really curvy in your, pictures that you put up on
And I'm
Facebook.
not because I have a thick waist. I always have.
Oh, well, you do it very well. Maybe you'll have to
Mm.
show me how to
It's
take
the
those
shape of the
pictures.
clothing.
Well, yes, and that's where I've always had struggled with. I think we discussed this once. I wish they can do it where um the way we were discussing how there's some people who know how to dress you for a bra, fit you for a bra. There's a lot more to it than just
Mhm,
size and cup size. I wish they would uh like for instance they'll say you're a pear shape. Are you a
mhm.
pear shape? Well, then you should wear these clothes. And you're like, well, I don't know if you're a pear shape. Well, do you look like this? I think so. I don't know. Do you include the arms in that shape? Do you know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
no, I know
So
what
I
you're
wish
saying.
somebody could say you're this shape, you're that shape. That's what I
I
want.
also feel like,
And you should be wearing this, and you should be and use these techniques.
what I
That's what I
have
want somebody to say to me. I'd pay someone to do that.
remember when you were telling me that sometimes when you go shopping that, like, you said, like, "Oh, I really like this," and you get it, and then you can't figure out why it doesn't fit in with the
Yeah.
house? I feel like
Mhm.
that's the same thing with clothing. When I finally
Oh,
figured
no, I
out.
know why it doesn't.
Yeah, but
It
I'm saying at
yeah,
first you didn't like, "I have all this stuff, why isn't it working?"
yeah,
Whatever, and then you started to realize you had to stick with a certain aesthetic or stick with a
yeah.
certain thing so it'd
Mhm.
work.
Yeah.
That was kind of like my journey with going thrifting and everything because you can experiment. I could try different shapes of
Right,
clothing and recognize, "Oh, this doesn't work on me." And
right.
then, be done with it,
But
maybe pass
that's
it on.
how I was saying that takes time and you have to work at it. And with anything that you want to do appropriately takes time. And I don't want to spend my time on that.
Fair
I'd
enough.
rather pay someone to, if I was going to do it, rather pay someone to say, this is what you do.
And I was in
And
a
then I'd go,
situation where for
okay.
work, I had to do a lot of public facing stuff, and you
Yeah. And
suddenly
that's,
get really self-conscious, and that was
that's
when I was
part
a
of it.
lot bigger, so I was
Yeah.
trying to figure out clothing for that size,
Yeah.
and now that I kinda figure out how to do that,
Yeah.
and now that I've lost the weight, I it's a lot easier for me to kind of figure it out.
This is a tie-in to that. Just real quick, the last thing I would suggest I'm moving a lot more. I never ran when I was a kid. In my 40s, I started running. I've ran 2 half marathons. I've hiked down to the bottom of the Grand Canyon multiple times. I've done camping. I move a lot more, including, and I think this is important, your joints. Your
Mm,
joints, even just doing that. And very important that I love classical stretch, but I see we're almost out of time, but
mm,
talking about your weight and everything, movement. Movement in any scenario, movement helps. It helps with cognitive. It helps with you being able to keep going as you go further. And it helps with running, particularly, will help with oxygen exchange as well as you being able to heat transfer. You're able to stay warm when it's cold out and cold when it's warm out better.
when we were growing up, do you remember the way mom danced?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
She kinda moved her
Yeah.
hips and shoulders a little too. There was a lot of snapping.
And it's funny 'cause I have that video where it shows mom in her 20s, I would say, and she was dancing, and I was like, "I
Yeah.
see a little bit of that in there, but not." She was obviously a lot more, free in
Yeah.
her movements and
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
and I look at that now, and it's very funny that you're talking about moving because I had after putting that video up, it was a week ago, I put it up for my mom's birthday. I was thinking like, I don't dance. When I was a kid,
Oh.
when I was little, I wanted to be a ballerina, even though I never
Mhm.
took ballet lessons. I took tap. Um,
I
but
have bad memories of tap. I'm not
no,
gonna
I
go there.
love tap. But the point is that like I don't dance. And part of it is because of self-consciousness. Like I don't move great. I'm like, I probably would be the equivalent of that Seinfeld meme of like Elaine, you know, I'm not a great dancer. And, there's that part of me that feels like, oh, I feel so self-conscious. And again, one of the things I'm grateful for, oh, I should do this is like I'm talking about my boyfriend a lot. But one of the things I'm grateful for is he goes at least once a month to this thing near us. It's actually at a kind of like a punk rock bar, but they have a ghouls night and they do music from, like, the '80s, the '70s and '80s that were, like, punk rock and stuff, and the amount of people that show up, young, old, doesn't matter, they're all wearing black. I'm inevitably wearing something outrageously colorful, but but in a sea of black, but nobody cares how anyone's dancing. Some of them dance amazing. Some of them are a little awkward, but they're all just like out there just dancing, having a grand old time to like old music. And it's just fun. And I was like, oh, I should be doing that more often. Sometimes I just stand on the side. But I like dancing and it's
There's not a lot of dancing around here. I'm trying to think. There's not a
no,
lot of
it's
dancing.
not
Now,
like
I
when we
will
were
say I
younger.
play music and I'll dance in the house still. But usually when I have one kid who's very judgy and I wouldn't do it when she's around. But otherwise, uh,
See, if my kid was being judgy, I'd
go
be like, let me do it more.
go ahead. She's an intense judgy, so go
I
for it.
know. But,
Break her for me.
I feel like,
You don't live with her day in and day out.
we in the '90s and '80s, like, at least '80s, little bit into the '90s, on Long Island at least, there was definitely a lot of
Oh, yeah.
clubs.
Oh,
I
yeah.
don't hear about dance clubs anymore. I don't know about
No.
Long Island, I don't even think there is any, but certainly not
Oh,
around
no,
here.
there is because I remember when you used to, what do they call it when you went down the street, Friday nights?
Oh, cruising the Pike?
Yes, cruising the pike, and I was
That's
talking
Hempstead
to some of our
Turnpike.
siblings. Yeah. I was, talking to our siblings about that, and I'm like, "Do they still have that?" And they said, "Yeah."
Oh, I imagine, but cruising the Pike is a lot different than going to dance clubs.
No, because did you ever cruise the pike? You cruise the pike to
I
find
did
out
with
where everybody's
Colleen.
going, and then you're like, "I'm going to this club. Okay, see you there." And you shout from car to car. That's what, we did when we cruised the pike. I only did it a
Oh,
couple
I
of
thought it
times.
was just meeting guys,
It
you pull
is.
that's
It
it.
is because
I
you
never went to dance clubs when I was younger.
yeah, I
They
went
were
a
too much of a
couple of
meat market
times
when I was a
'cause
kid. It was too much for
it
me.
it is. And actually when I was in college, I was the designated driver, but I was always the one who people go to, "I don't want this guy to he keeps asking me, can you get him or get rid of him?" And I had to be the bad guy who said,
So it's
"No,
like,
we're going
"Hey,
home now,
you, go
thanks."
away."
Yeah.
Like I said, Joanne was that person.
I
She was a
was,
girl's girl.
but I didn't really, like the role.
Yeah,
Because so I
because 'Cause
didn't
you're
go
the
out. I
heavy.
stopped going,
Yeah, yeah,
and then I met Gordon and all was well.
and all is well.
And he doesn't like to dance, so we didn't go to dance clubs.
Mm.
It's
Yeah,
fine. I don't mind dancing by
but
myself.
I like putting on music every once in a while, and my kids will come in and they'll be like, they'll
Yeah.
I call,
The
back in the
K-pop
day
Demon Hunters, great music.
back
Great
in the
music.
day when Wolfie would go, yeah, he was living in Rochester, and then later on he moved in someplace else. When he would come home to visit, like, around Christmas time, like, the 2 other ones who were still younger, they couldn't wait until he got back, and he would come in the house, and they would get into spontaneous dance. But I always called it the praying mantis. And the legs would start, like,
Your whole camera's
stomping.
moving.
Yeah, the legs would start, like, get wide apart, and they would be stomping, and their arms would be up in the air, and knowing how
Okay.
Joey is very lanky, and it would look, yeah, I called it the praying mantis.
He should have gotten into, the martial arts
Uh,
if he's
yeah,
lanky.
yeah. He did
Maybe.
bodybuilding instead.
Yeah.
He's
Anyway,
bigger
we're
now.
at the hour.
Yes, we're at the hour. So, tell us, how we did today. Did you
What
know,
do you do in your 50s
that you didn't do when you were younger, and you feel like it's gonna be a benefit for you in the long
and you
run?
don't think you would have done it in your
Mm.
multivitamins? I probably would have done. We had the Flintstones, remember? But I just ate it more like candy than this is good for my health.
I was not good about any of that stuff. I was invincible, invincible!
Exactly.
I mean, except for when I was pregnant, I took prenatal, obviously.
Yeah, and the doctors told her.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
other than that, no. Lots of folic acid.
yeah. I had
But
trouble with but
anyways,
anyway.
thank you. We don't know how to end
Bye.
things. We're awkward. Bye.